Hello, everyone. On today's episode of McDonald Math, we will be reviewing dividing mixed numbers. And remember, your math skills are impressive. Most impressive. But
you are not a Jedi yet.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of McDonald Math. Today we're going to go over dividing mixed numbers. So make sure you have out your notes and your whiteboards, but before you start writing everything down, I want to point something out to you. All of these notes here are notes you've already taken. That's right, you heard me correctly. You've taken notes on all this before. You see, dividing mixed numbers is using steps that we've already done in the past. Let's look at this. Step number 1, turn any mixed number into an improper fraction. Well, in our previous video, you remember we used the spin wheel method. And as you can see here, we multiply denominator times the whole number. That gets us 4, carry it up, add the numerator. 4 plus 1 is 5, denominator stays the same. You already know how to do that. Step number 2. After both fractions are proper or improper fractions, you will follow the KFC steps. Well, you remember that in the previous video, KFC. Keep, flip, change. You're going to keep the first fraction the same, flip the second fraction. Remember, find the reciprocal, the inverse of the second fraction, and change from division to multiplication. You already know how to do that. Solve and simplify. You know how to solve, you know how to simplify based off, again, previous videos. So, do you have to take these notes? No, you don't have to. If you already have the previous notes and you feel comfortable with these steps, you don't. But if you want to have them there, just so you can get that extra practice and familiarity with knowing what you're doing, go ahead and write them down. So, remember, in dividing mixed numbers, first turn any mixed number into an improper fraction. That's the first thing, or proper fraction. The second, KFC, keep, flip, change. So you'll notice here, I have 5 over 2 divided by 8 over 3. If I use the keep, flip, change method, I keep the 5 over 2 the same, I flip the 8 over 3 to become 3/8, and I change the division sign to become multiplication. Lastly, now I can solve and simplify like normal. Here's a little added note for you. Your answer should always be a whole number, mixed number, or proper fraction. It should never be an improper fraction. So I have 5 over 2 times 3/8. Now I can multiply across like normal. 5 times 3 is 15. 2 times 8 is 16. This is a proper fraction. I'm done. Okay, and again, if you would like to put these in your notes so you become more familiar with the step-by-step process, then by all means, go ahead. But if you feel comfortable, just go ahead and follow along here. So we have a problem like 2 1/3 divided by 3 1/2. Remember, turn, KFC, solve. Turn mixed numbers into improper fractions. Keep, flip, change, and solve. So 2 1/3 divided by 3 1/2, I'm going to change both of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. Multiply the denominator times the whole number. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 3. Denominator stays the same. Let's do this one now. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Denominator stays the same, 7 over 2. Well, I've completed step 1, which is turn them into improper fractions. Now I can move on to step 2, which is the KFC method. I'm going to keep the first fraction the same, 7 over 3. I'm going to find the reciprocal of the second fraction. So it's going to go from 7 over 2 to 2 over 7. And I'm going to change from division to multiplication. Once that's done, now I can solve. So I'm going to multiply straight across. 7 times 2, 14. 3 times 7, 21. So now we have 14 over 21. Now, if your teacher tells you that you don't have to simplify or you don't have to worry about reducing, you're good right here. But if they tell you, make sure you simplify, remember, use your greatest common factor, in this case, it would be 7, and divide by the numerator and denominator. So if I take my greatest common factor, which is 7, 14 divided by 7 is 2, 21 divided by 7 is 3. So my simplified answer would be 2/3. Let's take a look at this second example. We have 1 3/5 divided by 3 3/4. Let's use our steps. Turn, KFC, solve. I'm going to turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions using the spin wheel method. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. Denominator stays the same, 8 over 5. Second number, 4 times 3 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. 15 over 4. Well, I've completed that first step. I've turned them into improper fractions. Now, let's use our KFC method. I'm going to keep the 8 over 5 the same. I'm going to find the reciprocal of 15 over 4, which now becomes 4 over 15. And I'm going to change from division to multiplication. Now that I've done that, I can solve. I can multiply. 8 times 4 gets me 32. 5 times 15 gets me 75. So remember these steps. And if you want to write this down in your notebook or on your whiteboard or a piece of paper when you take the test, make sure you do that. So you remember, I'm going to turn KFC and solve. Sometimes just writing that little note down and remembering the steps can go a long way in helping you. Okay, now get out your whiteboards and your markers because we're going to do some examples. Okay, hopefully you have your whiteboards and your markers out. We're going to do 4 examples here. Make sure you have your notes out so they can help you if you need them. Go ahead, press pause when you need to so you can solve and work through this. And when you're done, press play and we'll go over it. Okay, I'm assuming you've pressed play. Let's go over this first one here. 2 2/3 divided by 3 1/2. Remember our steps. The first thing I'm going to do is turn. I'm going to turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. And I like to remind myself just by putting the symbols up there so I know what to do. So I'm going to start here. 2 times 3, that gets me 6. 6 is going to go all the way up here to the addition sign. 6 plus 2 is 8. My denominator, 3, stays the same. Now I'll do the second one. Spin wheel method again, just like that. 3 times 2, again, 6. It's going to go all the way up. 6 plus 1 is 7 over 2. So we've completed our first step. We've turned these now into improper fractions. Do you remember the second step? If you said KFC, keep, flip, change, you'd be correct. So I need to keep the first fraction the same. So now it's going to be 8 over 3. We're going to flip the second fraction, so it's going to be 2 over 7. And when I say flip the second fraction, do you remember the vocab word for this? If you said reciprocal or inverse, you'd be correct. Lastly, I'm going to change from division to multiplication. Now all that's left is to solve. So let's solve. 8 times 2, well, that gets me 16. 3 times 7, that gets me 21. So I have 16 over 21. Now I'm finished. Now again, if your teacher wants you to simplify, make sure you simplify. However, in this particular answer, we do not have to simplify. This is it. But you always want to make sure and double check that. Okay, let's move on to number 2. And again, if you need to pause the video so you can solve it, go ahead and do that. When you're ready, press play and we'll continue. All right, let's take a look. Over here, we have 4 1/2 divided by 2 3/5. Well, first things first, let's turn these into improper fractions. Let's use our spin wheel method. Just like that. And we get 4 times 2 is 8. It's going to go up. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 over 2. Divided by. Same thing over here now. Spin wheel method. 2 times 5 is 10. It's going to go up. Stop up here. 10 plus 3 is 13. We have 13 over 5. We've completed our first step. We've turned them into improper fractions. Now remember, KFC, keep, flip, change. Let's keep the 9 over 2 the same. Flip, find the reciprocal, 13 over 5, which is now 5 over 13, and change to a multiplication sign. Now we can solve. So let's do this. 9 times 5, well, that gets me 45. 2 times 13, that gets me 26. Now, we have an improper fraction. And again, we can't leave it like that. We have to make sure that we finish this. And whenever we have an improper fraction, remember, think division, okay? Now, again, if you can just look at this and you know, oh, I know how many times 26 goes into 45. You don't have to go through all the division steps. But for those of you that are struggling a little bit, I do recommend writing it out. So I'm going to erase this really quick so we can see. We'll do it like this. I would write it out like this. Have your long division ready. And I know some of you hate long division, but it is important to get that practice in. How many times can 26 go into 45 without getting bigger than 45? Well, I know it's 1 time, but if you're unsure, always do some multiplication off to the side. So let me show you. If you're wondering, well, I don't know, could it go into it 2 times? Take your divisor and multiply 26 times 2. That's 12, 4. I get 52. It's too big. Remember, it has to be either equal to or less than the dividend, the number inside. So it can only go into it 1 time. That means 26. 1 times 26 is 26. We subtract. And we get 19. Remember, when you divide, when you use this process, use orange here, the top number, the quotient, that is our whole number. The remainder, that's our numerator. And the divisor, that is our denominator. So our final answer to this problem is 1/19 over 26. Okay? Let's try one more here. Let's do one more. I know we had 4, but let's just do the 1. If you did all 4, good job. Let's take a look at number 3. I need to change these into improper fractions, remember? So when I do that, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I get 5 over 4. divided by 5 times 5 is 25, plus 2 is 27. I get 27 over 5. Okay, we've changed them. We've turned them into improper fractions. Now, keep, flip, change. Let's keep the 5/4 the same. Let's flip the 27 over 5, find the reciprocal, which is now 5 over 27. And let's change the division sign to a multiplication sign. Okay, we've done the second step now. Now we can solve. Now the top part is pretty easy. 5 times 5, sure, that gets us 25. Now, if you happen to know your multiplication facts really well, and again, you can just look at this and go, oh yeah, 27 times 4, I know exactly what that is. But if you don't feel any shame. Use your multiplication charts if your teachers let you, or do a little bit of math off to the side. Come off to the side here and say, okay, well, what is 27 times 4? That's gonna get me 28. 8 plus 2 is 10. That's gonna get me 108. So I have 25 over 108. Never feel embarrassed or bad about going off to the side or taking a little bit of extra time to make sure you get the answer correct. So our answer here is 25 over 108. Guys, hopefully this made sense to you. Make sure you review these notes. If you still need extra practice, I'll be sure to put on some extra problems for you. But for now, review those notes, and thanks again for stopping by for another episode of McDonald Math. Hey everyone, I hope you liked that video. If you did, please make sure you press that subscribe button and follow our channel. I'll be putting up new math videos every week. Did you find the hidden Mickey in this video? If you did, and you go to my school, make sure you come see me and tell me where it is for a freebie scan. I'll see you guys later.